Okay, hello everyone. My name is Scott. Lightmane is just the name of a character that is in my D&D story that I wrote and have narrated here on my channel if you'd like to listen to it. It's all in a playlist called Forestera's Fate. Um, I'm going to read, or attempt to read, the Keep on the Borderlands, B2, by Gary Gygax, an introductory module for character levels 1 through 3, just because I thought I'd try doing it to see how it works reading this module. I'm I started reading the Chronicles of Amber. Why am I forgetting the name of the book? The Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. Not getting any interest, and I'm a little surprised by that. I thought people would like to listen to someone read the Chronicles of Amber. If you've never read the Chronicles of Amber, I can't recommend it enough. It is my favorite fantasy fiction series of books. Incredible series. I can't recommend it enough. But anyway, I'm going to try reading this for now. Some people said they were interested, so we'll see what happens. I first played D&D. We went through this module back in 1980. I would later run it as a dungeon master, and the thing that really, how do I want to say this? That fascinated me about this module is the fact that Gary took the time, and I guess that was the point of writing this module, to teach players how to be dungeon masters. There really wasn't a whole lot of information out there at the time. So for him to put all this information in here, which I did not know was in here when I first bought the module to read it because I wanted to try being a dungeon master, I was pleasantly surprised at all the material that was in here and felt that now I could attempt to do it. And I did, and you do the best you can. So if you want to start a campaign, that's the other thing I love about this module. It is such a great setting to begin a Dungeons and Dragons campaign because you can do anything you want with this. It's very open-ended. It leaves a lot that you can work with, or you can just run it as is. You don't have to do anything with it, and that's a very nice feature about this module. But some people don't like it. They think that the caves make no sense at all. At first, I kind of agreed with them, but now I don't, because now I see the sense of it, because I made sense of it. I've revised the module, or I should say I wrote my version of it, and I might share some of my room encounters as a contrast to show you what the module says versus what I did. I'll see. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that, but I might do it. Let me just read the front cover first. We'll start there. This module includes a cover folder with maps and a complete description booklet to form a ready-made scenario for basic Dungeons & Dragons. It has been specially designed for use by beginning dungeon masters so that they may begin play with a minimum of preparations. I like that it was written in this way. And yet it's also written where you can just do so many things. There's so much more preparation you can do, which I think is very, very neat about this module. Within are many features to aid novice players and dungeon masters: legends, history and background information, a list of adventuring characters, tips on how to be an effective dungeon master, plus an interesting area for characters to base themselves in, the keep, before setting out to explore the Caves of Chaos. Okay, that is what it says on the front, and I'm just going to read, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 pages. We'll see. 3 or 4, most likely. There are parts I will skip over. There's really no reason to read them. All right, let's begin, and we'll see how this goes. Introduction. Let me turn on the sounds. I like this background, so I'm going to use it and see how it goes. All right. Introduction. Welcome to the land of imagination. You are about to begin a journey into worlds where magic and monsters are the order of the day, where good and evil, law and chaos are forever at odds, where adventure and heroism are the meat and drink of all who would seek their fortunes in uncommon pursuits. This is the realm of Dungeons and Dragons. I can read this part. Dungeon Masters. If many copies of this module are available to the players, you may wish to alter sections of the keep and the Caves of Chaos. If you do this, you will be sure to have new surprises for players who might be familiar with some of the contents of the module. That's another nice thing about this module. You can easily redesign it and run players through it again, and it will be a lot of fun for them to go through it again, having made all these changes to it. If you do this, you will be sure to have new surprises for players who might be familiar with some of the contents of the module. You are not entering this world in the usual manner, for you are setting forth to be a dungeon master. Certainly there are stout fighters, mighty magic users, wily thieves, and courageous clerics who will make their mark in the magical lands of D&D. You, however, are above even the greatest of these. For as DM, you are to become the shaper of the cosmos. Now, at this point, when I started reading this, I was already getting overwhelmed, like, I can't do this. But you can. You don't think you can, but you can. Not that you're any good at it, but it doesn't matter. You can be a bad dungeon master and still have a lot of fun, and the players can have a lot of fun too, even if you don't know what you're doing. It's weird, but it does work. Not always, but it does work. It is you who will give form and content to all the universe. Oh my God. Talk about overwhelming. You will breathe life into the stillness, giving meaning and purpose to all the actions which are to follow. The others in your group will assume the roles of individuals and play their parts, but each can only perform within the bounds you will set. It is now up to you to create a magical realm filled with danger, mystery, and excitement, complete with countless challenges. Though your role is the greatest, it is also the most difficult. You must now prepare to become all things to all people. So yeah, now I'm overwhelmed. Notes for the Dungeon Master. The basic instruction book for Dungeons & Dragons has given you the information necessary to understand D&D and start play. This module is another tool. It is a scenario which will help you to understand the fine art of being a dungeon master as you introduce your group of players to your own fantasy world. Your interpretation, and your is in bold, your interpretation of the many worlds of Dungeons & Dragons. Keep on the Borderlands is simply offered as a vehicle for your use, a way to move smoothly and rapidly into your own special D&D campaign. Read the module thoroughly. You will notice that the details are left in your hands. This allows you to personalize the scenario and suit it to what you and your players will find most enjoyable. That's another great aspect of this module, in my opinion. This module has been designed to allow 6 to 9 player characters of the first level to play out many adventures, gradually working up to second or third level of experience in the process. The group is assumed to have at least one magic user and one cleric in it. If you have fewer than 6 players, be sure to arrange for them to get both advice and help in the keep. For example, they should have advice from a friendly individual to stay near the beginning of the ravine area and enter the lower caves first, to avoid their getting into immediate trouble with higher level monsters. So in other words, if you've got 9 people playing, 9 people, don't give them that information. Let them figure it out on their own. Or maybe they get it if they really take the time to talk to people and gather as much information as they can. Then you could reasonably assume that they would learn that the caves in the back and up high are more dangerous than the caves down low and in the front. That is a reasonable thing you could do. But you don't have to automatically let them do that. Whereas if it's a weaker party, you should have somebody tell them, because they will die. if you don't do that. Um, to avoid their getting into immediate trouble with higher level monsters. Likewise, the services of several men-at-arms must be available to smaller parties. If only 2 or 3 player characters are to adventure, be sure to have a non-player character or 2 go along, as well as a few men-at-arms. In addition, give the player characters a magic dagger or some magic arrows and at least 1 potion of healing. Family bequests to aid them in finding their fame and fortune when they go against chaos. The DM should be careful to give the player characters a reasonable chance for survival. If your players tend to be a bit rash and unthinking, it might be better to allow them to have a few men-at-arms along, even if the party is large, and they actually don't attempt to hire such mercenaries. Hopefully, they will quickly learn that the monsters here will act together and attack with reasonable intelligence, if applicable. If this lesson is not learned, all that can be done is to allow the chips to fall where they may. Dead characters cannot be brought back to life here. Of course, as a dungeon master, you can make it so they can be brought back to life. That's your choice. Using the keep as home base, your players should be able to have quite a number of adventures, playing sessions, before they have exhausted all the possibilities of the Caves of Chaos map. Assuming that they have played well, their player characters will certainly have advanced a level or 2 in experience when the last minion of darkness falls before their onslaught. While your players will have advanced in their understanding and ability, you will likewise have taken great strides in your skill as DM. In fact, before they have finished all the adventure areas of this module, it is likely that you will have begun to add your own separate maps to the setting. The keep is only a small section of the world. You must build the terrain and towns which surround it. You must shape the societies, create the kingdoms, and populate the countryside with men and monsters. The keep is a microcosm, a world in miniature. Within its walls, your players will find what is basically a small village with a social order, and will meet antagonists of a sort. Outside lies the way to the Caves of Chaos, where monsters abound. As you build the campaign setting, you can use this module as a guide. Humankind and its allies have established strongholds, whether fortresses or organized states, where the players' characters will base themselves, interact with the society, and occasionally encounter foes of one sort or another. Surrounding these strongholds are lands which are hostile to the bold adventurers. Perhaps there are areas of wilderness thick with dangerous creatures, or maybe the neighboring area is a land where chaos and evil rule. There are natural obstacles to consider, such as mountains, marshes, deserts, and seas. There can also be magical barriers, protections, and portals. Anything you can imagine could be part of your world if you so desire. The challenge to your creativity is to make a world which will bring the ultimate in fabulous and fantastic adventure to your players, a world which they may believe in. And he gives some notes about abbreviations and what the symbols and words stand for, so that you understand as you're reading the encounters. For instance, dexterity equals DX, armor class equals AC, things like that. It then tells you to determine the armor class, and original D&D used descending armor class, which, while not as easy as ascending armor class, it's not as easy, because it involves a calculation. I think it's more interesting, and I actually prefer it because I like having to make a calculation and not just say, your armor class is 15, I need to roll a 15. Either way is fine. Use the system you prefer. I understand why they changed it, but just understand why the system, the whole point of the system was that this game involved making calculations to figure out what you needed to roll. That was part of the fun. And while it goes from armor class 9 to 1, it says, it's funny that it goes down to 1, because it says, note that an armor class, AC, of less than 2 is possible for characters wearing magic armor, carrying a magic shield, and or wearing a ring of protection. Players using these items will subtract bonuses from their AC. Let me say that again, because I think that's really, it is funny. Players using these items will subtract bonuses from their AC. For example, a fighter using both +1 plate mail and +1 shield would have armor class 0. Anyway, using the combat tactics. To find the die roll needed to hit any armor class, look at the charts on pages 18 to 19. See, this was fun. This is why we love this game. Look at the charts on pages 18, 19 of the basic D&D rulebook. Compare the level, if a character, or hit dice, if a monster, with the AC of the target to find the number needed to hit. For armor classes lower than 2, adjust the number upwards. A character needing a roll of 17 to hit armor class 2 would need an 18 to hit armor class 1, 19 to hit armor class 0, and so forth. Unless magic or silver weapons are needed to cause damage and not available, a roll of 20 will always hit, and a roll of 1 will always miss. It's not actually the rule in advanced D&D, but it is the rule in basic D&D, I guess, I think. I never got into the basic D&D rule book very much. I mean, I saw it, read it a little bit, but we just used the advanced rule books, guides and handbooks. A bonus of +1 should be added to the to-hit die roll of high-level characters, where they have more training and experience in fighting. This bonus will apply to fighters of 4th level or above, to clerics and thieves of 5th level or above, and to magic users of 6th level or above. Movement in combat. Combat movement is short and swift, and usually done by sprinting. In a combat situation, only short charges or retreats are allowed. After combat is resolved, movement rates return to normal. The normal speed, the movement speed for characters is unarmored, unencumbered man, 20 feet per melee round. Armored or encumbered man, 10 feet per melee round. Armored encumbered man, 5 feet per melee round. To determine a monster's movement speed in combat, divide its base movement speed by 12. I know you're all confused by that. This is how the game is played. And so I'm just going to keep reading this because this is all information for new DMs to understand what to do. When dice are used to randomly determine a number, the type of dice used are abbreviated. D4 means a 4-sided die, D6 6-sided, and so forth. If more than one is rolled, the number required is placed before the D. 2d6 means 2 6-sided dice. They had to actually explain that. If any number is to be added to the total of the dice, it is indicated afterward. D4 plus 2 means roll a 4-sided die and add 2 to the total. 2d8 plus 1 will thus give a number from 3 to 17. You will quickly get to know all of these abbreviations and may use them when you design your own dungeon. Become familiar with this module. Then make whatever additions, changes, or amendments you feel are appropriate for your campaign. And again, the word your is in bold. Once you are satisfied, gather the players together and have them create their characters. This will take some time, so at first, don't plan on getting much actual adventuring done unless there is a lot of time available. After each person has rolled the numbers for his or her characteristics, strength, intelligence, etc., selected a race, chosen a profession, and found how much money he or she has to begin, you should introduce them to the setting by reading the background section to them. As an aside, feel free to limit race or profession as suits your conception of the setting. You might wish to disallow the presence of elves or halflings in the keep, or you might not want any thieves as beginning characters. It is all up to you as DM to decide the shape of the campaign. Likewise, you can opt to give the player characters a special item of equipment to begin with, possibly mounts, a weapon, some trade goods, or virtually anything of small value within reason. And again, I like that you can make these changes, and this is where I have a problem with rules lawyers. They think everything has to be done as the rules say. This is not true. It's not true. You just said it right here. You can not allow certain races. It's just, it's your world. The rule book is not written in stone. You don't have to follow it exactly. And that's the other great thing about D&D. But not everybody understands that, and I'm confused why that is, especially since he says it right here. But, not everybody's read this module. All right, let's continue. After you have outlined the circumstances, allow your players to begin interacting with their characters. Give them time to wander around the keep, learning what is there, finding the limits of their freedom, and meeting the other inhabitants of the place. They may quickly establish their base in the Traveler's Inn, purchase their equipment, and then visit the tavern, where they may gather bits of information about their coming adventures. All of this preliminary play, just as what will come afterwards, demands that the players assume the personalities that they will have throughout the length of the campaign, barring the unforeseen. You, however, have a far greater challenge and obligation. You not only must order and create the cosmos, you must also play the part of each and every creature that the player characters encounter. You must be gate guard and merchant, innkeeper and orc, oracle and madman, as the situation dictates. The role of DM is all-powerful, but it also makes many demands. It is difficult to play properly the village idiot at one moment and the sage the next, the noble clergyman on one hand and the vile monster on the other. In one role you must be cooperative, and the next uncaring and non-committal, then foolish, then clever, and so on. Be prepared. Whether in the first session of play or in the next, the participants will set forth to find and explore the many caves of chaos. You must describe the journey to the place and what the characters see, and allow them to choose how they will go about their adventuring. In such situations, the DM must be a true, disinterested party, giving information as required by questioning and proper action, but neither helping nor hindering otherwise. Could he be more clear on your role as a dungeon master and how you are to run the game? Could he be more clear than this? I don't think so. Yet, people have argued this from the beginning. When the players experience their first encounter with a monster, you must be ready to play the part fully. If the monster is basically unintelligent, you must have it act accordingly, enlivening the meeting with the proper dramatics of the animal sort, including noises. If the encounter is with a monster of the more intelligent sort, it is up to the DM to not only provide an exciting description, but also to correctly act the part of the monster. Rats, for instance, will swarm chitteringly from their burrows, a wave of lice-ridden hunger seeking to consume the adventurers with sheer numbers, but easily driven off, squealing with blows and fire. Goblins, on the other hand, will skulk and hide in order to ambush and trap the party, fleeing if overmatched, but always ready to set a new snare for the unwary character. If all of this seems too much to handle, at this point it totally seemed too much to handle for me as I'm reading this, having never been a dungeon master before, just wanting to try it. Never fear. Just as your players are learning and gaining real experience at D&D, so too will you be improving your ability as a DM. See, it doesn't matter if you suck at first. Just go with it. Do your best and don't worry about it. The work necessary to become a master at the art is great, far greater than that necessary to be a top player. But the rewards are proportionate. You will bring untold enjoyment to many players in your role as DM, and all the while you will have the opportunity to exercise your imagination and creative ability to the fullest. May each of your adventure episodes always be a wondrous experience. Note, several words in the following text will be followed by an asterisk This means that the word will be explained in the glossary at the end of the module. Yet another thing that he put in this module that was just so good for a beginning dungeon master to have. A glossary of terms that you didn't necessarily know what all the terms stood for. Okay. How to be an effective dungeon master. I thought he'd already been talking about that, but let's continue. I'm on page 4 now. As dungeon master, the beginner is faced with a difficult problem. The DM is the most important person in the D&D game. He or she sets up and controls all situations, makes decisions, and acts as the link between the players and the world he or she has created. Perhaps the most common question faced by a beginning dungeon master is, what do I do to run a game? It is possible to read through the rules and become slightly lost by all the things that must be prepared or known before DMing a game. Unlike most board games, D&D relies on information, both from the players and the DM. In board games, the way the game is played is obvious. First one person moves and then another. Actions are limited and choices are few. In D&D, the action is only limited by the abilities of the character, the imagination of the player, and the decisions of the DM. The play will often go in unexpected directions, and the DM will sometimes be required to decide on situations not covered in the rules. The DM is the judge. As a judge, moderator, or referee, the DM must constantly deal with the players. Just as the referee of a sporting event, the DM must be fair. He or she cannot be out to get the players. Yet some DMs do that. Nor should he or she be on their side all the time. The DM must be neutral. The word neutral is in bold. If a party has played well and succeeded, the DM should not punish them by sending more and more monsters at them or thwart their plans. On the other hand, if the players have acted foolishly, they should get their just rewards. In combat, the DM should play the monsters to the best of the monster's ability. If the creature is stupid, it may be easily tricked or may not always do the smartest thing. If the monster is clever or intelligent, it will fight to its best advantage. The DM must be fair, but the players must play wisely. The DM is also the designer of the situations and must bear in mind the abilities of his or her players. It is the job of the DM to see that the situations and characters balance. If things are too difficult, the players will become discouraged. Too easy, and they will become bored. Is it possible for a good player to win, yet still a challenge and a risk in doing so? Is the amount of treasure gained appropriate for the danger of trying to get it? As DM, much satisfaction comes from watching players overcome a difficult situation, but they should do it on their own. And he has an exclamation at the end of that sentence. To defeat monsters and overcome problems, the DM must be a dispenser of information. Again, he or she must be fair, telling the party what it can see, but not what it cannot. Questions will be asked by players, either of the DM or of some character the party has encountered, and the DM must decide what to say. Information should never be given away that the characters have not found out. Secret doors may be missed, treasure or magic items overlooked, or the wrong question asked of a town person. The players must be allowed to make their own choices. Therefore, it is important that the DM give accurate information. And then in bold, but the choice of action is the player's decision. Throughout all this, making decisions, playing roles, handling monsters, the DM must remember that he or she is in control. The DM is the judge, and it is his or her game. The DM should listen to the players and weigh their cases fairly when disagreements arise. But the final decision belongs to the DM. The Dungeon Master's word is law. Now, that is that did lead to problems because sometimes, players would make their case and the DM would say, no, I'm the judge. I final say, nah. And then players would get mad and the DM may have been acting rashly there, was being stubborn, all kinds of problems. You have to be fair as a dungeon master, and this is what I love about this module. It's the only module that I know of that did this. Maybe in other editions they wrote some beginning modules that did this. I don't know of any because I didn't read any of those modules. But if you know of any, let me know in the comments, and I'd love to look them up and read them. But anyway, I'm going to stop there. The next section is about time, and then there's dividing treasure and computing experience. Then there's preparation for the use of the module, and finally we get to the background, which we would then read to the players. So I hope that you are enjoying this. I will see how this video goes. If I post it, that means I was satisfied enough that I was willing to put it out there and let you keep it. I'll try to use different background pictures and sounds. This one is not a lot going on here, but I thought it was a really pretty picture to use. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you'll check out my story, Forrester's Fate. I'd love to talk in the comments, either in this video or in my story. I also made a video about Keep on the Borderlands, about whether or not it's the greatest module ever written, and I'll be adding more to that in the reading here. So we'll just see how this goes. I'm just trying it out, and I hope people will like it. We'll leave it at that. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye bye.